morning, appreciate you being here. This is an agriculture committee meeting. It's Wednesday, July 24th. I mention these things because we're recording it and I have to follow the Brown Act to be exact. If you will all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. The flag is here to the back left. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As a form of introduction, we'll do a roll call. Robert, where'd you go? Robert? You probably went to the restroom.
I put it down here on purpose.
Dennis, go ahead.
Dennis, O'Shine, I'm the agriculture committee.
Director Logan Johnston, a director for the CSD and on the Ag Committee.
Scott McVeigh, I'm chair of the Ag Committee and I'm a director here. Dennis, Robert, and I can't remember the doctor's first name. They're all community members of the Ag Committee. We put out a notice a while back that we were looking for committee input. We still have two of the committees that don't have community members, the Finance Committee and the Planning Steering Committee. If any of you are interested, you're welcome to apply. All right? Seriously. There's Robert. Also here is our general manager, Paul Kelly. To start off the Brand Ag meeting, we start off with open time. Anybody from the community who wants to have a say on anything that's not on the agenda, and there are agendas in the back, you can come up to the podium here, identify yourself for the record, and we'll give you some time. If not, we'll move on with the agenda. I'll get a second. Is anybody?
I got something to say.
Come on up. Please give us your name so we can record it.
Mark Juarez, 5723 Oak Street, down here, Florida. She actually picketed around the Capitol to start the CSD. She's 99 years old right now, so she can't make it here. But I'm thinking when they started the CSD, they got rid of the ditches. That's the reason they started the CSD.
Yeah.
And I started to do some quantifying on what volume the ditches brought to this community, which I don't think was discussed at the Capitol level. So if you go up by the big tower, you'll see two big pipes that go under the road. Those pipes were full of water 24/7 to supply water to this community. And I believe those ditches were put in before the water allocation changed, like you've heard about the McConnell water, where they get the water no matter what, all the time. I believe those ditches were put in before that, so I think the water that were in those ditches that we bargained, that we fought for to start the CSD is still under that, before the formula went through. So it's still, I believe we still get that water no matter what, because it's still like McConnell water. McConnell water ditch the same way from Seltzer water down. And they got that water all the time because they bought that ditch, the rights to that ditch.
Actually, they bought the rights to
The water that goes to
the dam, and then took the dam out.
Right.
And that gave them a certain amount of water that they then sell at an exorbitant cost.
Right.
So.
Correct, so I think that water that was in the ditches in the beginning when we started CSD, I think we're still, and I don't know, I mean, this is a capital thing, so I haven't talked to Doug Lamoffo about it, but I wanna let you guys know, I did quantify the volume of water that went through those ditches, and it's a lot, so.
We have 15,300 acre feet of water in a full allocation year that we can access. And we're selling to customers less than 4,000.
Right, but the McConnell water is, even in the drought year, they still get that water. And that's
Yes,
what
they do.
And that's what I mean, that water in that ditch was in there before, just like the McConnell water, so we shouldn't be affected by a drought year.
Well, we are though, because it has to go through the treatment plant through meters, unfortunately, and when they give us restrictions, we have to live with them and come up with alternatives if necessary. And if wants to talk about it, we can get into that. You know, maybe later in the meeting or something.
Yeah, that was something I'm not on the agenda, I just wanted to take it on.
Right, I appreciate
We'll,
it.
we'll talk it over later on. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna turn the time over to Dennis Posheim for a little bit. He's done the majority of the legwork to organize this, drafting the letter, making phone calls and whatnot, and he has arranged for a couple of speakers for us tonight.
We wanna do, the update on the farmers,
No, we're gonna do it down on the agenda a little bit later.
okay? We have some, farm, advisors, that was, good enough to come up from down south, and we got, and I stutter, I apologize. Jamie Ott and Becky, Wheeler, Kurt Price. Pierce. Thank you for coming up. Do you want to, stand up and say anything at all?
Well, I think what we'll do, Dennis, is turn it over to each one of them and do any presentation you prepare. And then if, after you're done, if the community has specific questions to you, we'll give you some time to answer, and we'll move on to the next couple, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't think, so,
Go ahead.
I
give us-
think, yeah,
You can use that podium and turn it around if
Yeah.
you
Alright.
want over there, and that way you
Turn
got
around and
something,
face the community.
that way you can put something there.
perfect.
Introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, all right, so my name is Jamie Ott, and I'm a farm advisor based out of Red Bluff. And I cover orchard crops in Tehama, Shasta, Glenn, and Butte counties. So that's why I'm here, because I'm your orchard representative. And Dennis reached out to me and explained that olive growers in this area have been struggling and wanted me to come and talk about how to market olives and how to do a farmer's market. And I'm just, I want to be very clear, that is not something I am good at. I am not an advertiser, I am not a marketer. I'm paid because I'm good at making trees grow. So,
Just so you know, we have a farmer's market now.
perfect. And so what I did think would be valuable though, is getting a group of people in a room together and kind of doing more of a listening session. More listening to what you are facing as challenges, what you see as opportunities in this area, what you see as challenges, where the really sticky situations are, and seeing if there's places that we can plug in and help you solve some of those challenges, or connect you to people who can help you solve those challenges. So I don't have much in the way of a formal presentation. I did see that in your packet here, they've included the sample costs to establish an orchard and produce table olives. And this is, the university does this every 5 years or so for different commodities. And this, what they have in this packet might not represent your costs to farm an orchard. If, you might find that, like, especially if you own your land, I think they include interest rates on land as part of that. If you don't own your land, if you don't have your own equipment, like all of these things will change how much. So this isn't like a hard and fast rule of how much it should cost, but it can give you an idea from an economic standpoint what it takes to make an orchard a profitable venture, and what goes into that. How much water the trees are gonna need, how you can irrigate those trees, your irrigation system. You can see that this is specifically modern style, medium density with mechanical harvest. And I know that up here, chances are you're not mechanically harvesting olives, and I'm expecting that I might hear that labor cost and labor availability is one of your big challenges up here. So, yeah.
Can Kurt and I jump up and join you?
Yeah, please.
That'd be great.
Can we do that?
And then announce your names.
Thank you.
I am Becky Wheeler Dykes. I'm also a farm advisor, orchard systems and I'm based in Orland, but I've kind of taken a special interest in olives. So Jamie invited me to join you guys.
Kurt Pierce, I'm the irrigation and water resource advisor for, the whole North Sac Valley. I'm based in Orland, but I cover Shasta, Fayette, Glen, and Colusa counties. And, just to back up, I'm sure most of you folks know this, but, you know, as farm advisors, what the extension service does is we conduct research in order to help folks grow what they're growing and to be successful at what you're doing. And it's a free service. It's been going on for 120 years. A lot of folks don't actually make use of it. And I think they feel bad that it's a free service. They feel bad like it's gonna be, whatever. They feel bad about calling and asking us to come out to their farm. That is our job. That's what we're paid to do. We raise a lot of money to conduct the research that we do to figure out how to improve the way you guys grow. So our whole job is to do that research, extend what we find to you guys, make it more, hopefully more profitable, more successful for you guys to do what you do. And if you guys have an issue, any problem with what you're doing, you just want to figure out how you can do it better, call us and we can help extend what we know or what we can find out or connect you to the people, like James said, who would be better than us to answer the questions you have. It's a free service and you're certainly welcome to take these for this other people here.
And the research that we do is based on what we hear from growers in terms of what their challenges are and what their needs are. So that's kind of part of this conversation. Hopefully we can connect you with resources or give you some information to help you. But if there isn't that information available, then maybe we can establish a project or start a trial that can help answer some of those questions. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. This is why it's good to have.
Jamie's information is in there, but if you wanna chat after, I can get you all of my contact information quickly.
Yeah, and we issue a EQ report out of my office, for irrigation specifically. You know, if any of you folks use evapotranspiration, it's published in the paper as well, all the papers that we carry, I don't know which one carry it here. But we can also get you on the mailing list for that if you are using, evapotranspiration, you know, as far as like what the crop water use is for any specific weed. Trying to replace that water, I understand, you can only replace what you have access to and stuff, but we can talk about, ways that we can deal with maintaining a crop or maintaining the trees, irrespective of a crop, through drought and through low water amounts. You know, it's being olive growers, you have the benefit, you're dealing with a very drought resistant, tree. Unlike, olive growers, walnut growers help. So you got that going for you. The trees aren't probably gonna die, if there's no water. There's ways you can continue on. It's a matter of degrees, it's what level you're operating at. And it might be different for everyone, and maybe your trees, the soil, where you're at, all that's gonna come into play, but we can help you figure it out.
So, with that kind of introduction of who we are and why we're standing here tonight, I'm hoping that this is a small enough group of people who feel comfortable telling us what are the problems you're facing, where are the challenges, what do you see as issues, and what ideas do you have for dealing with them, I guess. Really broad topic.
Can people just shout out?
I'm happy. Put up a hand and speak away.
I think, I don't know about everyone else, but for us, for our orchard, when they took away ag water and charged us residential rates, this is the first year we're gonna fully water the trees and try to get a crop out of them, but a lot of people last, because the residential rates are so high, we're just gonna have to shut the water off. Just turn it into residential property.
Maybe I can address that a little bit, since we have to set water rates every year. We only charge what it costs us to get it to your meter. And unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm an ag customer myself. We're paying about 2 cents per HCF, or 1 unit, less than M&I customers, as ag customers. But that's what it's costing the district. So, it's not like they're making a profit off you. One question I have, is there a possibility through the US Ag Department of getting some sort of a grant to subsidize water for the customers here, since we're a small disadvantaged community?
Yeah, I personally don't know many programs that pay to help subsidize actual access to water. You know, most of the grant programs are to make, your on-farm systems more efficient with using the water that you have. That's something that we can also help you with, and the office that Becky and I share, we have, a liaison or source that helps connect people to financial programs that are available. They come up, they go away fast. There has been quite a bit of money out there swimming around. It's, you know, not the easiest to get, but she's handled folks in it, you know, through the process and gotten folks some pretty tasty little grants to help them, you know, upgrade the equipment with what they have to, you know, to if you have water, make it more efficient. They just wanna see some increase in efficiency in return for the money that you guys get. I don't, again, I'm speaking a little bit out of my box here, this is something that, Mendoza in our office does, but you guys should know about the programs. Yeah.
Just to clarify, so that, these programs are really excellent because they come to your farm and look at your systems and how to improve on an individual grower producer basis. They aren't for communities.
Yeah.
So you as an individual, you can do all the paperwork and applications yourself if you're really keen, or you can go meet with one of these, community education specialists, and they help you fill out all of the paperwork. They help you with, oh, this is kind of the wording that they like to see, and this is how you calculate how much acreage for this practice, or how much it would cost for that, you know, solar installation. So like Kurt said, it's not going to reduce the cost of water itself, but the energy costs and becoming more water efficient so that you have better water infiltration, water holding in your soil, so you need less water. That's the kind of stuff that those grants help with.
Who here, if you guys don't mind, and you don't mind, I understand like the reason not to, but to the people, to folks who are facing a situation where you will have no excess water for irrigation, you're growing olive, but most of the places in the world, olive is growing without irrigation. Obviously, not ideal, right? Can you make a profit at that? I don't know. Again, not marketers, that's out of our list too. But it's possible to continue farming olives and to get a crop off of it. Will you have higher alternate ground? Yeah. Will the quality go down? Yeah. Will the yields go down? Absolutely. You know, but can you grow olives or any supplemental water? Yeah, you can. Generally it's done on wider spacing than what you probably have, you know, but if you're thinking about cutting out all your trees, I don't know, I mean, again, I don't know what makes more sense, cut out all the trees and sell the land to somebody build a house, I don't know. Cut out half your trees, cut out every other tree. And I'm not saying this is not advice to you, but I'm just saying this is something that may help, right? If you increase the spacing of your trees, where the trees that come out, you have now a root system that will degrade in the ground, right? And increase the water holding capacity from whatever we get from precipitation. You get about, 9, 10, 11 inches of rain in season, you know? And so, you know, anyway, there's things that, there are options that could be considered.
Let me ask a follow-up question to that. My understanding, I have about 4 acres of olives. My understanding is we can go without watering until about the last 6 weeks before harvest. Water 3, maybe 4 times to plump the olives up nicely, then harvest.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a way of making it a little more economical.
Yeah, farmers are doing that right now.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily water right now.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing research right now on it, specifically cutting back the water during the bed hardening stage, you know, where it's in the middle, so I don't have findings for you, but that's the kind of thing that we do, you know, just gotta conduct that specific research to see when is the ideal time if you have less water. Well, does it make sense to hold it back in the spring? Does it make, you know, to delay the start of irrigation? Does it make sense to hold it back in the middle of the season during bed hardening? You know, what will have the least impact on the yield factor?
So, I know we're in, oh, yeah, sorry, Dennis.
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
You know, real good to be watering this year, because of the full water year, it will set your base rate. And so later on, say, coming year, if they start cutting the water, it will be based on the base rate. So, you wanna use the water and get that base rate up. So if you get cut later on, it won't be as bad.
What Dennis is talking about is the Bureau of Reclamation in their allocations in less than full water years, and it's all based on the level of Lake Shasta. They will do a percentage of a 3-year average of M&I water for the district. And depending on how much it drops, then it will be dropping the percentage of ag water that we can get also. Dennis is mentioning that if we bring up the M&I amount, that it will minimize, the impact on the customers. But we did one thing also, on the board, about a year ago, we, something I worked on for a while, supplemental water program, to where in a drought situation where there's not sufficient water that is allocated to the district, we can go outside of the district and purchase water from a McConnell Foundation or whatever for specifically ag customers. It won't be cheap. McConnell charges $250 an acre foot, okay? But it's water. So if you were running cattle, olives, or whatever your crop is, it is a way of getting through that year. So if it comes to that point, you can, come to the board, or to the district and ask about the program. So, we can make it available. Basically, the board would take your applications, for requests for 1 acre foot, 5 acre foot, 10 acre foot, whatever. We will go out and try to purchase it. We'll do the best we can, and basically tell you what it's gonna cost you. And then you would decide. You would have to put a deposit down when you apply. If you can't acquire the water, the deposit goes back to you. But once we acquire the water, then you are obligated to pay for it, because we have committed funds from the district to do this for you. So that's another potential avenue. It's not free, but it's a lot cheaper than pumping it out of our wells with the cost of electricity and whatnot.
Just kind of a follow-up on this question, because I think there is a key element, a mix between the cost of the water and efficient use of water,
Yes.
right? Yes, it's better to have efficient use of water, especially if you've got to purchase water or whatever else it may be, but you still got the issue of, you got a base amount of cost of water. And I think, are you able to do a study of what is the point at which that cost of water with all of your other implements, like, effective irrigation or efficient irrigation, that makes it at least a profitable?
You've got to consider labor costs for harvesting, spraying.
Yeah, I understand, that's what
Transportation.
this cost saving here is all problem,
Okay.
Yeah, I was just circling back to that, because I think
Yeah.
that would be very useful,
Yeah,
because, individual landowners using some of your resources to go after some grants to be efficient irrigators
Yes.
is helpful. But if the district or as a community knows that there's a target amount that would make it helpful, then we could go after maybe some subsidy grants, more, not individual, but more as it relates to something for the district or the community that gets that cost down more reasonable. That's just my
So,
thinking.
not just with olives, obviously, all the other crops are taken this way. Everyone's in it to make money, clearly, right? You gotta make a living, right? But a lot of the focus has been, and this is maybe in other commodities about, what the yield is per acre, and so a lot of what has happened out in UC has there's been probably an unfair focus on yield per acre. We have definitely gotten the message and changed kind of focus about profit, right? Like, you are growing for profit, and every decision you make, best practices are for profit, not how many olives you're pulling off the tree, how many olives or whatever. We have an ag extension economist now. I don't know if Shasta is one of those counties, but the point is that we haven't had anybody like that in the extension service, and now we do. He's based in Butte County, right? He's based in Oroville. I don't know if Shasta's technically one of his counties, but we have a lot of olives in Gwen, so we can get the work done and just extend it, through getting my coverage of Shasta.
I think that sort of question that you're getting at, I mean, it's operation by operation, so it's hard to do an overarching study for it, but that's where these cost studies actually come in real handy, is you might look at it and you might say, okay, well, I don't mechanically harvest, so the mechanical harvest numbers are wrong for me. But if I need to hire hand labor to harvest, this is my cost. Okay, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not doing it quite like they say here, but this is how I'm doing it and this is how much it costs. And it can kind of provide a template for how you can total your costs and make that decision for yourself of how much it costs you to grow your olives with the price of water and how much you can make for them and where that break-even point is.
And one thing I wanna note is a lot of these cost studies, I don't know if you know if this one does, a lot of these cost studies also have an Excel version that you can download, and you can switch out the numbers. So if you look at it and you say, this says it's gonna cost me $300 an acre, but I know in my district it's gonna be $500 an acre, you can switch out that number. Or you can say, I know that I never get 10 tons to the acre, I'm sitting at 3 this year. You can switch out those numbers so that you can kind of see where that bottom line is gonna fall out for you and help make management decisions. And there are also other versions of management strategies for these cost studies. So this one is the modern acreage with mechanical harvesting, but there's also hand harvest numbers in other studies, and there's oil, so if you grow oil olives, there are studies on that as well. So you can kind of look at all of those different numbers and see where you specifically fall out. And like Kurt mentioned, we also have an economics advisor who can, just like us, you can give him a call and he can help you kind of sort through those numbers as well.
Yeah, there's an entire website of cost studies. This is the most current one, which is I assume why it's in the package. But like Becky says, there might be other cost studies other olive cost studies that you can look back to that fit your particular operation more closely than this printed one we got. So if you just Google cost studies UC Davis, you'll come to a page where they've done prune and almond and olive and alfalfa and beef, and I mean it's everything that I can think of that we grow in California. Though I'm sure they're missing some weird little things, right? Juju, probably not. We got an email about that. So I know we're in a water meeting, so it makes a lot of sense to talk about water. But I just want to ask kind of a hypothetical question. If you had access to your full allocation of water every year, and you knew you were going to have that, and it was, I don't know, half the cost it is now, if it was some ag rate sort of rate, more closely aligned with what it would be an ag rate in other districts, would that make all the difference? What else are your pain points growing olives up here?
It would definitely make a difference. The problem we've had in the past is the drought and
Okay.
the water. So we
Yeah.
need water. So I reduced my order to 15 acres to 5 acres because they have manures in it.
Okay.
And we just kept them alive. All
Yeah. Yeah.
No crop. And then with Bellflower Castle, our account, whatever that was, that was our outlet for selling. And
Yeah.
so we haven't been able to sell them for 4 or 5 years now. They just fall on the ground. So I haven't watered the whole 15 acres until this year.
Right.
I actually have a crop and I have a West Coast that's committed to buying my fruit. So
Okay.
if you don't have somebody to buy it, and you don't have the water to water them, you can't do them. I mean, that's kind of the predicament I think most of these people are in up here.
You got a farm that work.
No, it's been so hot, we've had 25 days over 100 degrees and our olives out with water maybe 7 days and they're shriveled. It's just too much heat
Yeah.
and that's all we can do. But that's been the problem. You know, I don't know if there's any other outlets to sell, I don't know if Cusco buys olives, I've never sold them. But
And they're in Orland, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they are, and they do buy olives.
And Penna's bought them years ago, bought them from us, but he hasn't bought them out here for years.
You know, Carter, Corning used to buy.
Yeah, well, they're buying Masalas, they made, you know, some of the growers that sell Masalas, some Carter has, but they won't take them along for growing or nothing else.
Yeah.
As of last year, I know that Musco is still taking Sevillanos. And the most recent thing I've heard from their leadership is they are still writing contracts and buying fruit. I don't know if that's still the case today, but I would definitely encourage you, if you don't have a contract and you have fruit, call down to Burrison's at Musco and see if you can get a contract. The other resource I wanted to let you guys know about, in case you weren't connected with them, is the California Olive Committee. And they work with the marketing order through the USDA. So you guys are assessed on all of the tonnage that you bring to canneries.
$28 a ton.
What?
$28 a ton.
Yeah, so all of that money is going into a resource that you guys should be able to use. And I didn't see anyone on the board from this area, which might be one way to advocate for the growers in this region, is having some leadership on that board. I think most of those terms are turning over in 2025. So that's something you could kind of do some forward planning on to get yourselves positioned on that board. But they do the marketing, the research, and all of the kind of negotiating for prices. So that's also a really good place to go if you're like, I need a contract, who's taking contracts. They have information like that for you. And I'm happy to get you information on those board members and contact information for them as well if you'd like.
Yeah, and you have my contact information in that packet, so I can connect you with any of these lovely people that I brought with me, and like the people we keep talking about. But also, if you lose the packet, Dennis and Paul both also have my contact information. So really, you should be able to get in touch with us if you need us.
Wondering, what is the possibility of some folks starting over and planting variety that's the oil variety that's got better dollars. Is that an option? I mean, you see, you know, down south, lots of the orchards, when one variety, it kind of goes down in dollar value, they just wipe it out and start over. Is that possible here at all?
It's definitely a different management strategy. If you wanted to, sure, yes.
I'll address that now.
Yeah.
What I've heard, I've been here for 14 years now, and what I've heard is that most of the orchards out here were originally planted as mission olive trees. So the rootstock is all mission. So if you were to, cut the tops back of the trees, of course not all at once, but over a number of years, what grows back will be mission.
I don't know if there's a market for mission either. I'm not saying there's not. I don't know about, yes, that would be an improvement, or no, you can sell those. But I do know that a lot of people, when they do pull out table olives, if they're familiar with table olives, they make the switch with their next orchard usually to either the modern acreage, where they train it up to be mechanically harvested, or they switch over to oil olives. I've heard nothing but positive from the oil guys about prices and the market, and how California market is like 1% of what's selling in the United States. So there's a lot of room to grow in terms of what we can grow here and be able to sell as California oil. That I would definitely contact California Olive Ranch, or one of the larger producers that you might be looking at contracts for. I would never recommend just go out and plant something and someone will buy it. But if you're thinking about doing the modern plantings of the table olives, there is right now an incentive program where you can get trees for free if you're planting them to be mechanically harvested. They are kind of trying to switch the industry over to that, because as you all know far better than I, the cost of hand labor is extraordinary if you can get the crews. So those are two kind of pieces of information. I don't know if that kind of addresses your question.
I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the industry's going to mechanical harvesting, but how do you get a mechanical harvester up here to plant on the order? Those things are cheap. And if you don't have acreage to run all those machines, they're not gonna bring them out there to do that.
Well, that's, that's kind of part of, why we're here is, it might be smarter, to kind of bunch up our landowners and sell larger volumes, at once. And so, we could do it, or a broker, that court sometimes it done that.
He's a man.
There's the man right there.
That's him.
And, but, I just see that lots of these smaller, landowners, it would really be a lot smarter to bunch up and, possibly start an association, or join an association and sell, larger volumes. And by selling larger volumes, and then that's the same, pruning or doing, the harvesting. If you have bigger volumes to do that, the costs come down, and then the selling price, market price goes up, so that is certainly something to think about.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of, let's see, I've seen this with a couple of my walnut growers down outside of Red Bluff, that each person has like 5 acres of walnuts, and you would never get somebody to come in and harvest 5 acres of walnuts, but, there's 4 people in a row down the street and another 4 people on the back side of the street that all have 5 acres, and, one of the bigger operators in my area is willing to move a machine to harvest that whole swath all in one go. And like I said, those people independently would not be able to get those plots harvested, but since they kind of schedule it together and work together, it becomes worth it for the operator. And so that might be an option up here. I guess I'm less familiar with how your spatial layout is, whether that would be doable, because these guys really are all like down one street and back up another street. But that would be, I think that'd be worth thinking about and considering whether that's an option. And that might apply even with, like you said, with pruning, but I was gonna say with hand picking too. It might make this a more tempting area for a crew to come up and do some work as well.
And I talked to, Lucero, I got his name, I think it's up there, Lucero, and I think he lives a long ways off, but he does some brokering, and he said he would buy, the olives up here, but it's gotta be a big enough volume that they can, ship them in days, time, a truckload, fill up the truck and send it out in a day. If it's gonna take a long time going to this little place and then this little place, it won't work. It's gotta be all, a bunch of landowners together, and it's all set. And then, he can bring up someone to do, the harvesting, and he'll buy them, but it's gotta be in volume. He doesn't want any small jobs.
On the board, we have a person that has hundreds of olive trees and 2 foresters.
Yeah.
I'm an actual enforcement private investigator, lived down here only a little less than 4 years, and I do have 32 olive trees, but that's it. The olives I have are Mission, and those are table olives.
Yeah.
And so I'm really ignorant of olives, but Mission also has olive, they just don't have very much of it, right?
Yeah.
And there's a possibility we could actually start with our own press out here. They are available, and we're gonna look at grants for that.
Mhm.
And something else too, we have people of all ethics out here growing, and some people may not fully, feel comfortable in English. Like, I have a friend of mine, raise your hand, Bill. He is half Irish American, half Mexican, say out Espanol. So if anyone here has trouble with English, he can ask, you tell him what you wanna ask, and he'll ask you folks. So, I speak Spanish, thank you, cause I don't. So, people do buy Mission to make olive oil, you just don't get much money for them, correct?
Yes, that's true.
So-
And Manzanilla and Sevillanas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what?
And the
Manzanilla.
pansies and the Sevillanas as well.
Yeah.
It's not as much or oil content as your traditional oil varieties. And the sensory quality is usually not the same.
What sensory mean?
Sensory, like quality, the taste
flavor.
and the
Okay.
flavor.
Yeah.
So that's flavorful olive oil.
It's a different flavor, so it's not what they're typically looking for. I personally like it. Our experimental olive orchard down at Nichols, they used to make oil out of all those manzanillas, and so I like it. And especially if you're marketing it as a specialty, like local product, I think that's a really interesting avenue to consider.
If we did start with our own press, we don't have the transportation costs. And there are different ways of mechanically harvesting. I learned that you can actually do, in Italy apparently they use some sort of rake, they don't pick them, they rake them off, and there's that, and then there's mechanical shakers. And then there's the big boys that come in and shake the whole olive tree. But there is a way to do that, so it is viable, or could be viable if we have our local press and had no transportation costs and had the mechanical harvesting.
It sounds like it to me, but I am not an expert on markets, so the end product, it's physically possible to do with the table varieties. I don't know about the marketing side of it.
You know, whenever you're talking about, my feeling is on this, and again, I'm not a marketing expert either, but when you are dealing with a special, you know, when you're all together, it's a commodity, right? When you are pressing your own, or you're adding your own herbs from your garden, right? You make that into a specialty product right quick. If you got a farmer's market here, or you got local farmer's markets here, you know, you have an opportunity to take that route. And a lot of times that route is pretty profitable. Of course, it's a lot of work. Then you're hustling the whole thing, start to finish, you know. And you know, it's just what does everyone want to do for themselves?
I just want to say one more thing. I'm thrilled to have you here. I think it's wonderful that you showed up. We have people that have thousands of trees, others that have a few hundred, but it's just wonderful you're here to help us. And it's been insightful for me so far, so thank you.
Should we make sure you guys have like any big questions?
Yeah.
Let's get them out now. We've been occupied more than we've
Yeah,
been listening.
talking
So we'll be
a lot.
listening, but surely you guys got some pressing questions that you could.
What's the going rate for it? I'm not going,
Going right for them.
Last year, with our research plot, we submit those and we have them priced out just like you guys would when you're having them taken over to Musco's, and we were getting about $1,200 a ton.
The oil is less, so, because the $20 company, Hollywood company down the corner was buying oil, I think it was like $800 a ton.
The oil is definitely less per ton. I think in a lot of, from what I've seen from the economic analyses, we're gonna keep putting caveats on this, because we are good at growing trees, not good at selling products. But what I've heard from the economists is that the oil olives function on margins. The people who are growing them function on small, thin margins, which is why they are mechanically harvested, why they're in those hedgerows, so that you can
Thousands
get
of acres.
as many tons as possible. Yeah, like, you know, lots of acres altogether, because you're making such a small amount on each acre that would be different than a specialty oil situation. But again, that requires having a market, that requires being able to get your product to market and convince people that it's worth $20 for a bottle this big, which I know people, I mean,
I've done it.
I've done it. You know, like, you go to the store and you're like, well, I don't know, go try it. And so, I mean, I know it's possible, but growing the olives and squeezing the olives, it's the work that goes into convincing me to spend $20 on it. But I mean, Kurt's point about the farmer's market in these areas, like, I live down in Red Bluff, and, I can say that I go to the Wednesday farmer's market just about every week. There isn't anybody selling olive oil at the Wednesday farmer's market, so it seems like that might be something that would be worth looking into. Again, I'm not saying you should do this is gonna fix all your problems, but I see some value to it.
Yeah, there's also a growing, appreciation, there's also a growing market for legacy olive trees that are over 100 years old, and that's what we've got here, right?
Yeah.
That's right, I've seen them trucking them.
I've seen
Right.
them digging them out and trucking them, and I think, I mean, let's see, if you think you wanna get rid of your orchard,
Oh,
that
that's
might
not-
be a nice way down.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the actual like table olive or the olive oil that is produced from these old trees.
The heritage.
Yeah, the old trees. I mean, there are people in Europe, I think in regions of Italy and maybe southern France, where people are actually rehabilitating these 1,000-year orchards
Right.
and producing oil from them.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I think that's kind of what we're talking about, like, you can grow the olives and you can make the oil, but how do you make that oil sing to somebody who's gonna spend a lot of money on it, and
Takes a lot of money.
I just think it takes different know-how than I have. I wouldn't be able to sell a glass of water in a drought, so.
The one big consideration for oil olives is that, it uses slightly less water, but you have smaller margins to play with. It becomes like a quality issue.
And just thinking about diversification of products, we are so intent on California black ripe and sometimes secondarily the green olive, but there are a lot of other styles of processing olives that are not common here. They're actually not even covered by the California Olive Committee. Like, you don't pay anything for those tons that you are processing in other ways besides California black ripe and the green olive, because it's so uncommon to have that product coming out of California. So
Yeah.
there are other avenues if you're thinking of branching out besides the oil olives as well.
As long as we've got you here, what about, I don't know a thing about, the olives, I read, soybeans and corn, like these. But, what about spraying, spraying requirements, the olive, not, disease, what about some of those problems?
So in this area, some of the primary concerns are olive knot, olive fruit fly, though our numbers have been pretty low in the past few years. Thank goodness. Other than that, there's just not a ton of disease and pest issues in olive compared to almonds and walnuts and things like that. So it is a very sustainable crop in that way, but it's also less expensive to manage in a lot of ways. A lot of people use chemical thinning chemical suckering. So you're not even going through with hand crews, you're just going through with an herbicide that's properly timed. Some people do, on a heavy year, use chemical thinning so that they can reduce the crop load that year, and then you get better size, better quality, and you get a better price that year, but you also reduce the alternate bearing for the next year, ideally, if everything goes well. We're also currently working on getting a product registered that's a loosening agent at harvest time. So if you apply this, it's sort of like ethylene, it ripens the fruit and gets it ready a little bit more quickly so that you can go through with a mechanical harvester and you get more of that fruit off. So those are kind of the main chemical applications that you're looking at for growing olives. And like I said, a lot of it ends up being optional. If you don't have any events where you're at risk for olive knot, then you don't need to go out and be spraying. If you aren't getting any flies in your traps, you don't need to apply the GF120 or anything like that.
Yep.
That's good part about the heat, it shows the water.
Yeah, these temperatures, it's not great for the trees, but it's also not great for the flies. So, we'll win some to lose some.
Question, has anyone lately requested grant money for ag use, or how do we compare with other districts that may do, you know? How do we,
Ag use for
our area, for our district, water, a lower,
oh, for water?
or a better price?
That I don't know.
We have absolutely no people on that whatsoever.
I would say the grants that Kurt was talking about, those are individual operator grants, or individual farm grants. Those, I don't believe have an area like, oh, your neighbor got that last year, so you can't get one this year. It has more to do with the project you're trying to put in and getting all your paperwork in on time.
But, real quick, I mean, as a follow-up, is there anybody at UC Davis that is doing a comparative study from Davis to Reading on how much ag producers are paying for water? I think that's part of what you're asking is.
You know, how does our district compare to the other ones
Right.
in
That
the
makes
west?
it- You're paying X here, is that
Okay.
30% more or less than your neighbor? Yeah,
We're getting squeezed out of the market just because of
right,
where we're at,
right,
you know?
Yeah.
Lack of,
right.
you know,
That, I think,
I don't know if
yeah,
anybody
and that's
is-
why I was asking that previous
Yeah.
question, because if there is a known difference,
Yeah.
then the
Gotcha.
community can use that as leverage for a grant, right? I mean, then you say, hey, look, you know, we're losing a competitive ability
I
here.
have a couple other questions jotted down here
Okay.
that I think are
There you go.
well aimed at our ag econ people, and I feel like that's an ag econ person
Yeah.
question, if I've ever heard one, and since they do all these frickin' cost studies, they might actually have a pretty good idea of how much water is costing in different areas of the state.
They called around to get these numbers and then kind of go by an average, or if everyone's saying 200 and this one county says 500, then we go with the 200 kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So
they might
have kind of even if they don't have a comprehensive study with a map, like a heat map of water costs, they might have kind of an idea. And so I've got that on my list here
Yeah.
of questions that I don't have good answers to, but that
That
you
would
guys
be,
deserve answers
I
to.
think that would be very helpful through the chair.
Yeah.
And I can't resist mentioning that if you go to page 3 of this Davis thing, they say irrigation is a cost for water of $225 per acre foot. That is 51.6 cents per unit. Our current charge is 54 cents per unit. So
Right.
we're very much within this cost estimate for wherever they did their study. But I think what we would wanna know from somebody in your economist, like, they had to know what the folks in Orland are paying and what other people are paying, so that we can know how we can.
I've
Yeah.
actually talked to a few, oil, big farmers down in Portland and that area, and they've actually punched their own well and they're getting their own water.
Yeah.
So this may not be a true number. And you can do that up here too, we can, for a cost of $15,000, I can put a well in and pump water meters and stuff, It's gonna take me 30 years to get that money back.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
The other aspect to that though is California years ago mandated groundwater sustainability agencies. And so they monitor through wells groundwater levels. We are in one of those agencies.
I just wanna clarify about the water costs they have listed in here. It says, the pumping cost is based on 100 horsepower electric motors, pumping from a depth of 200 feet. Price per acre foot of water will vary by grower depending on the power source, well characteristics, and irrigation district. So that cost they're giving is actually the cost of pumping the water out of a well, not buying the water from a district. So, you could still say those are comparative numbers, but if we're talking about surface water, irrigation districts, and costs of water per unit.
Again, I think we're good to have economists. I can tell you, because I'm the water guy here.
Yeah,
I mean, our wells are 500 feet.
Right?
Yes.
So it costs us, just because PG&E has quintupled their rates, It's $500 an acre foot.
And this is where
Without
these
chemicals.
grants that Kurt was talking about come
More
into,
labor.
come in to really help
Yeah,
people
they're fresh water and ours is treated water.
Yes.
is that these grants can pay to
Right.
solarize your pumping system.
Right.
And so, you know, there's this money out there, I keep encouraging people to take advantage of it, because if it's not you, it's some other guy, and why should it be you?
I just did a tech review for one of the grant calls, and, I believe only 2 or 3 of the applications got rejected. I mean, the point being that the success rate for going after some of these grants, don't wanna make it all unicorns and rainbows, like it's not a guarantee or whatever. That was an N of 1, like one example, but that's an example.
So if I can follow up with a question on that, are these grants for individual growers?
Yes.
Yes.
So not a public, any
Right.
like.
No,
existing-
it's for, Mary and John Jones on the street to put in a $50,000, $80,000 solar system, or a VFD in their well,
Do
or
you know
Or
if
replace
those
all their
are,
irrigation.
replace their entire
with
irrigation system, to.
Double,
Put in
dual line
drip
drip,
instead of-
pressure compensated dual line drip.
Yeah.
are these grants 100% grants? Because I know some of them can be 60/30s,
Yes.
10s.
Yeah, some of the, I can't say too much, they weren't 100%, there was some matching, some not.
Okay, so you have to understand that.
And that's just one grant. I mean, there were also a lot of grants out there that I had, the organizers for that grant, the administrators calling me being like, get the word out, like, no one's applying for this money. I mean, literally, it felt like money's raining from the sky and no one was going outside. And I know that's hard to hear when everyone's, when your folks are struggling, but the point is that if that continues, and I can only assume it might, then it's better to know now, So-
Scott was saying, you can't just pump to your heart's desire, because
Right.
they're monitoring you, and
Yeah.
they can stop you or penalize you, or
Well,
charge you
Yes.
tax or whatever they want to do. So we're restricted. And also, the water in this area filters in slowly. You can't pump a lot quickly because it doesn't recharge very rapidly.
But we sit on a lot, we sit on one of the largest aquifers in the nation because of the trees and whatnot. I did some research from the US Hydrological Society. The water passes underneath us that range anywhere from about 180 to close to 500 feet, heads south to what they call the Red Bluff Arch, and then it's pushed east towards the Echo River and whatnot, and continues on down. So we do sit on a lot. I sit on the board of the EAGSA, that's the Enterprise Anderson Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And after the drought, our water table in the 2 areas went down 1/10 of an inch. Okay, so it recharges almost completely. Now, we don't have commercial pumping, so if you've got 100 acres of olives and your neighbor does, and all of a sudden we start pumping 15,000 acres, to water olives, it may have some impact, and it may not. Okay, there are rules, and we are considered a medium at risk, so we have to pay for the monitoring right now. We were able to get a grant to cover the annual paperwork, the monitoring, and it covers through about halfway through 2027. But our district will end up eventually paying $54,000 a year as our share of the agency's costs. So that's something that we have to deal with. And if we become a severe rain, meaning we dropped more than, I believe it's 4 inches, when they measure, then there are cutback regulations and whatnot. They will monitor things. As a district, because of our water allocations, we have the opportunity, not to restrict water for the customers, but to, if we have enough, and, say, Orland Artois Water District needs water, we can sell it to them at a profit to rebuild our, reserve accounts and whatnot, to help the district. We've been working on that. Unfortunately, the last 2 winters, it's been unrestricted, nobody's wanted to buy it yet. As Sites Reservoir goes in, there are gonna be people who want to buy 5,000 acre feet, 8,000, 10,000 possibly. they can store it for future use in the site's reservoir. If we make $25 an acre foot, $200,000 a year extra to help the district, it would be a real blessing to us, so that's a possibility.
As long as it doesn't turn into an ACAD fiasco.
Oh, no.
Let's just sell the water.
The board decides how much to sell, and I would never sell more than the district needs met. In fact, I would want probably 20 to 30% more than the average usage, just to ensure that plus, they may wanna buy later in the year. And if we haven't used it, then we have that opportunity. This is kind of taking us a little bit away from what we're talking about, so I don't want to go down that route too far. If you have any other questions for these fine folks, I appreciate them being here. Let's get that done.
Were any of the grants, through your agencies, were any of them given to co-ops? If there was a co-op started?
Or an association.
Or an association, could they apply for a grant?
I don't know, that would have to be a question for the coordinator, again, they were speaking for somebody else, but,
I was just wondering, if you're looking through the list, if you found like, oh, there's a co-op, there's one, or,
I can ask them on that. I'll follow
That's a
up
good
on
question. I like
If
that.
we formed a co-op up here, just of all growers, maybe we could, supply a well, or get a grant for a well, back feed to the district, whatever we pump, and then we back, you can get a lower rate for all growers.
Yeah, it might be a different funding source. I
It
mean,
might be a way around them.
I feel like.
The well in Portland, wasn't that? I think the well in Orland was partially subsidized. I'm guessing, Stuart's guessing it this way. But I do believe that there are funding sources out there, that out of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, but there would be funding sources out there for a cooperative to do. I mean, the point is to get the money to people that can help. Right.
I think I'm, like, I have something tickling in the back of my mind about, that's California Family Farm, Alliance of Family
Family
Farms,
Alliance,
yeah. So
Alliance.
I remember talking to them last year, and they were looking specifically for cooperatives for a certain pool of grant money, because some grant money only goes to cooperatives and growers groups.
We
So-
know them.
Yeah, so it might be worth following up with them and seeing, and again, this is just like a very vague memory, but, so it could not have been about water, it could have been about pollinator habitat or something completely different, but even just knowing that there are grants that specifically target cooperatives would make that seem like something that would be good to follow up on. Dennis, did you wanna follow up on that, or should I?
You can.
I will reach out to them.
I can follow up on that.
Okay.
Before we sit back down, I did wanna let you guys know that we hold an annual Olive Day as well in Orland. I'll make sure you guys get the flyer to distribute up here. Last year, we had market and industry updates from both the table and the oil side, so you can kind of get a sense of how things are going, pest management, disease management, water, all of that kind of stuff. So we would love to have you join. There's usually a lunch, and we intend to have kind of similar topics, so I'll make sure that information gets to you guys.
What time of the year?
Last year was in late February, it'll probably be about that time this year as well.
Thank you, folks, I appreciate you coming down.
I'll leave my card on the little table back there, whatever the ones that I have is, again, Shasta's one of the counties at your disposal. But if you do contact me, get one of the ones with the cell phone number, please don't call, I have a really hard time hearing on the phone, email or text, but yeah, I'm here to help you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So does the district have, acreage of all the olive growers? I mean, was that what the notice was sent out to, was just olive growers, or other farms, like Trinary?
It was all olive is what we got. It was in collaboration with Dennis.
Yeah, so you have the total acreage of olive trees that are counted?
What do we have?
I got
680.
an app on my phone
Nice.
that I can
Know where
go
each
down the
ones are
street
at.
and look at, I'll see the olive orchards, and then it tells me the landowner and the address and the acres.
He's watching you.
Dedication.
Starting to regret asking that question.
Yeah, and understand that the experts can step out on your ranch and look at it and see if there's anything you can do to improve it or bring the expense down a little. Or
Make better use
change
of the water.
over, use the water better.
Less
And so, here's the people, to do that.
Yeah, and if we don't have the answers, we probably know the people with the answers.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're really good at growing trees. That's really good at watering.
So, what we've done is invited you all here to see what the interest is by the community. The board set up this community to help facilitate your needs. So we'd like to kind of hear from you guys what you're interested in doing. Do you want to form some sort of an association? Do you just want to make use of their expertise for your own system? Usually there's strength in numbers, but it's your decision. Logan and I, our job is to kind of facilitate this and help you out. But, you know, being directors in the district, it's not our job to run it for you. It's your orchard. So we'd like to hear from you guys what your interests are, what some of the challenges are. Are there people who know some pickers, since it's right now, it's all labor intensive? If we do decide to form, what are we gonna do about transportation down to a cannon? You know, where is that coming from? What about pruning, you know, trees? You may not be able to do it yourself anymore. I know I can't. Too many trees. So what are the resources that maybe can help the smaller people, maybe the larger people have some information? Be interested to hear from you, your experiences, how you might be able to help, and whether you're interested in forming some sort of an association to work together. Anybody? Comments? Nobody? Somebody must have some thoughts. Come on, guys.
I don't know about all the people that are here, there's really only about 4 people that can have acres that they own.
I understand that.
A lot of people, I'm sure, have smaller orchards, but maybe have the water or irrigation, they don't want to get into it yet. Right now, it's only like, Pedro, me, and Ernie, my brother, and not very many that are.
I understand that. But would you be willing to work with the smaller, property owners to, have enough tonnage for a buyer? You guys may be able to produce them up on your own, it may not matter to you. So if we don't do the association, there are other options for your olives. You can, like Dennis was talking about, we could form a small association, make some oil, make it custom and sell it. I cure some of my own olives. You can do that. I make my own olive relish. Half pint jars, you go to the store and try to buy that, it's gonna be about $18. And I have a very simple recipe, my family loves it. You can cure your own olives, sell them. I like cure mine. And then I put them in a mild salt brine to store. Farmer's market, we have a farmer's market. You can, if you have those, sell it there. There's other farmer's markets around, those are opportunities. One thing I have done also with my olive trees, I contracted with NorCal Trees, the Savanoviches, and they transplanted. I sold about 84, 86 of my olive trees for transplant. There's some at the Gaia Hotel, they're in Marin, they're in Temecula, they're down in Santa Barbara. Okay, so that's a possibility if you choose not to be stressed about the cost of water. Okay, some people don't want to do it. Okay, so there are other options as possibilities for you. You want to switch out? If you want to switch out and go to olive, you guys did mention then there are free trees available for mechanically harvested olives.
Yes.
Okay, so if you wanna do that, I've only got 4 acres of olives on about 18 acres of land. I could add trees, but I have to be able to irrigate them the first few years to get them established. So it's up to the community, what you guys wanna do. Do your own thing, get together, pool our resources. That's what this meeting kind of is about, Paul.
Just one quick comment, regardless of the next steps, is I do think it would, we've talked about as a committee, is having experts come and make presentations, which we had today.
Absolutely.
It might be nice, maybe in a couple months, to bring back some of their contacts on the, just on the economic side, or some
Yes.
other things to also speak. And maybe get some of the, you know, all the list of stuff that you've got down, Jamie, that maybe you've got, wanna report that back to everybody. I think that would be valuable, regardless of what else we decide
I
to do.
agree.
I really think we need to help facilitate information. Of course, I'm interested in some of this information myself, because I think there's ways in which we potentially could help if we have the tools to actually, you know, go help people.
It'd be nice to possibly have a workshop to where we learn how to make better use of the water, you know, avoid some of the evaporation,
So
so
Kurt, come on in.
it actually gets to the roots and to the trees, so, you know, something like that. Would you folks be interested in us setting up another meeting, a workshop of some sort like that? Yes, okay. We're at the end of July, end of August, early September. Okay. We're doing this.
You guys might be busy. Might wait till after that.
We usually harvest our olives around October, but I'm willing for the smaller farmers, if they wanna, I'll give them the price of what we're getting when we haul them in, you know, it doesn't matter.
Do
The
you
more olives, the better.
have pickers, because some of the smaller growers don't have pickers?
Well, we had some pickers, I'm not sure if we can pick them right now, they'll usually pick like 30 boxes a day.
Right.
We sell our olives to Kenna, and he uses them for, table olives, and he sells them online.
Okay.
In boxes, you can buy a box of olives for like $35. So the olives that he sells online, they go through a conveyor belt, there's like 10 ladies, and they screen them for any scratches or marks or blemish.
Right.
And those go into curing olives.
Right.
So the boxes that you buy in the box online are perfect olives, they have no scratches or anything.
Exactly.
So most of the olives that we harvest are hand-picked.
And what type of variety olive do you guys have?
Ceylon.
Yes, I have the majority Ceylon.
So, I mean, I don't know how many, if you have 10 trees, you know, you may get a ton off of 10 trees or
Oh,
something.
yes.
Or less, yeah, but then again, you know, if you wanted to put it in our shipment down, I just pay you for what we're getting from. So, I think it'd be good to start an association on co-op, it would help out, you know, maybe, if I can't ship them down there, maybe you can ship them down there. And, you know, I'm picking my olives and you're doing the shipping, and you're getting our price or whatever, if we could work as a group, it may cut our costs to where it's more affordable for everyone.
That's what I'm hoping. Yes. That is the goal, to encourage it.
So I don't, you know, I don't know if you wanna have a sign-up sheet or who wants to be involved in that co-op. You can, you know, list, you know, I have a truck or I have a flatbed that can take all the olives down there for you. You know, usually you gotta pick them one day and you ship them the next morning.
Right.
So they gotta go pretty quickly down there.
And hand harvesting is very labor intensive, I've done. So, yeah. Other interest by some of the larger growers?
I got a question.
Sure.
I'm noticing that the cattle ranchers are putting up solar panels, and they're drawing up water. Does anybody know how many gallons they get per minute with these solar panels that, they're trying to make their cattle not have to walk so far to get water? So
It
they put
depends
them
on
in
the
dry
depth of the
season.
well, doesn't it? I mean, the pump, you can only,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
head pressure, you know, so you have to have a certain amount of power.
It just occurred to me, cause I'm not an olive grower, but if you had a great big tank and you have the solar panel working for you with this kind of sun that we have here, fill it up and maybe once a week you can send out to a portion of your orchard, water them at night?
Not a bad idea, especially if you can get a grant to help you with that solar. It's an idea.
Yeah, it's a low volume, but
Static pressure pump.
yeah,
Yeah.
just, let it fill up. The tank, it may take, several days to fill the tank up, and then you can use it.
So that's definitely something to consider for water. Do we wanna do?
Real quick, though, I mean,
Yeah.
Dennis, you heard that there's some interest, so make sure that you've got your list of people that signed in, put a check mark by them, and let's see if we can get a hold of them and have another.
Right,
Yeah.
and generally, I need, now, we can make telephone calls, but it would be nice to get, your email. And just send out fast, and then I'll make a few phone calls to, folks that haven't got an email. But if you got one, be sure to put it down or come to me and I'll write it down. I've got a list of all, the landowners. Your landowners, your street address and the acres. I've got a telephone for a few, not very many, but I haven't got, the email, so that would be very, important. And then, and I'll talk to you about maybe the water rights or that topic, and then grants. We can look into, to see if some of the landowners can get a grant to do improvements on the property. And generally, that those are smaller, and they're pretty simple to do, to write up and send out.
Maybe off topic, but I did actually 2 years ago cure some olives, and I gave them to my sister to enter in the LA County Fair, and I took 2 first place.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good about that. I mean, anybody can cure olives and enter.
No, they can't.
I can show you.
You can start your own niche in a farmer's market or in
You
a.
got a sample. You got a cure for why?
There you go. Happy Valley Blue Ribbon Olives, right there, there's your marketing slogan.
So, Paul, I'd like to try to set a date for the next meeting and see if there's particular items that you'd like on the agenda for the meeting, so that we're prepared for it. So, well, that's what we're gonna talk about right now. Anybody with olives, when would you like to get together again? Maybe we'll look at organizing an association or setting up a workshop, so we're more efficient at things. I'd like to get some feedback from you, so.
Could you be able to come back and report on some of the stuff?
Yeah, of course. I'm also planning to send a follow-up
Yes.
email to Dennis with when I get some of these answers to these questions, so that.
I have 2 more items
But yes,
before you
of course,
go.
I'll come back.
Okay. So, what's our calendar look like? Early September?
September 4th is the first Wednesday.
Everybody okay with September 4th? It's a Wednesday, we do it at 6 o'clock.
So you did do a good job. You did do a good job. We'll try not to touch it. We'll go to the
That way you can
Getting hard to
finish it
hear
up.
everybody. Sorry, but I wanna kind of focus this on the next meeting, what steps you guys wanna take So, if we're gonna meet on September 4th, 6 p.m., here again, highest recognition. Are there particular things you'd like to have on the agenda? Better utilization of water for your crops, demonstrations of pruning for trees, anything like that? I know they're interested, you know, but there are others